Well, thank you for joining us on this Zui whānau. Ina mana, ina reo, roi rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. Hei karakia i tematanga te tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te taonga. Kia mākina kena ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai. E hi, aki ana, te ata kura, he tio, he huka, he hauhonga. Tuturu a whakamaua kia teina.
Teina.
Haumi e, hui e, taiki e.
Aki e.
Nō reira he mihi, ko taupiri te maunga, ko Waikato te awa, ko Whenua te roto, ko Wairanga Airangi te iwi, nā rahu pōkeka ahau, ko Toitu te whenua ahau e mahi ana, ko Dwayne Wilkins toku ingoa. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai, welcome to our wānanga today, where we'll be unveiling the layers of environmental tile data. So I think you'll find there's definitely going to be something for everyone here today. This is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch this again later. We'll process it, put captions and things. Just for those of you who haven't joined our wānanga before, this is part of the Ngā Poutama Matawhenua series, so specifically targeted capability building for those working in Māori trusts and related type of organizations. So we focus on those data sets and those practical the practical implementation of how you can access data, use maps, add your own data and things like that. So there are lots of recordings available as well. And what I'll do is I'll share my screen and we will get started. There we go. Cool. I'll keep an eye on that chat. So any pātai, feel free to put them in there. And what I'm going to do first of all is share with you a document that we're going to refer to today, and it has links to everything you're going to be able to see over the next hour or so. And so that's in the chat. If you just click that link, you can have a browse through there. And what I'd like to do is just invite you to have a look through there, pick one favorite, or if there's not a favorite there, just put it in the chat, just a one-liner, and that will just help me tailor our wānanga today to focus on what interests you. So what else housekeeping I need to do? Just if you can keep your microphone on mute, we'll have time for questions at the end. This session is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch the good parts later again. So yep, can see some folks accessing that. A couple of things I wanted to point out first is that as part of our Ngā Poutama Matawhenua series, which we do each month, we have a competition, mapping competition, and this is the easiest competition you've ever seen. It's basically just inviting you to share what you've learnt, share some skills that you might have picked up over the past few months, past year or two. If you've been a regular follower of Ngā Poutama Matawhenua. And also, part of that, we have prizes. So here are some suggestions, and there's also a playlist on YouTube. I'll put this link in the chat. If you're not part of that Facebook group, you are more than welcome to join there, and you can ask pātai and other questions there through the week. So we have got some pretty neat prizes. We've got some sponsorships for online training for micro-credentials, I think, if I recall. We have got lots of Milka Karimi. Jeff O'Malley from Toitu te Whenua has scored us a heap of chocolate from Whitakers. And we also have up to 10 from Esri, 10 personal ArcGIS accounts, which are worth at least a couple of $100 each. So we got 10 of those. So pretty much if you enter the competition, you will win something. It's that simple. Oops, just throwing my mouse on the floor. And where's my thing gone? Here we go, this one here. Okay, so let's get into it. Sweet, cool, got some ideas on there. Thank you. Oh no, cool. So let's have a look what is in this document. Competition link there. A little bit of some kōrero, some ideas here. I was thinking, how am I going to slice and dice this one to make it most useful to everyone? So I kind of started with this concept of looking at different parts, kaitiakitanga, Māori, Rahui, Matauranga. I'm not an expert in Matauranga, I just share what I do know in terms of data and things. And climate change impact assessment. There's a few thoughts that are there, and then I thought, okay, that's going to be quite hard because there's going to be a lot of links and things under there. So I left that in there. And what I did is, if you scroll down a bit with me, you'll see there's also some links here, and these are the ones we're going to have a look at today. So what I want to do is skip right ahead, right to the end. These are the data sets we're going to have a look at today, but it's going to be frustrating because it's like, well great, now what do I do with it? All this data is awesome, but so what? So what I want to do is skip right ahead to the end, the so what. And what I mean by that is, what are you going to do with this data? And here's just an example of how you could present it. So if we just skip 6 months into the future, everybody's had a bit of a tutu today with the data. You've found some data that's really useful to you for whatever your project is, whatever the activity that you need some support with. How do you present that to others? How do you get buy-in? So this story map example, which I'll put on the chat as well. Okay, this is an example of how you can present to friends, whānau, a trust board, funding entity, funding agency, you name it. And this is when we did this as a webinar about 3-4 months ago. So it's on our YouTube playlist. If you just go to YouTube and search for Ngā Poutama Matawhenua, you'll find this one here. And we go through step by step of how to create this. You can create this for free. Don't need to buy anything, pay anything. You don't need a license. Esri, for those of you who haven't come across it before, is like the Microsoft of mapping. They're a commercial company, but they offer limited features for free, which is pretty awesome. So here is just an example of how you can use maps. And this one has no actual data. This is just using a 3D fly-through with place to place to place, some bookmarks. And never mind the story, it's all just made up, just as an example. And there we go. And you can have photos and things as well. So how would this be different? So this is possibly an example here, is that you can then start zooming in and adding in layers of data that we're going to have a look at in just a couple of minutes. For example, here in this story map, when I zoom in, I've got buildings and things turned on, but you might have your own data in there in a few months as well. So back to the beginning. How do we get there? How do we craft together this story map with all kinds of data? So things we're going to have a look at today. We're going to have a look at imagery sources. I should have reread the description again of the Whenua email, but I think I've got everything in there. Historical aerial photos back from 1936. So we'll have a look at those. We'll have a look at how to get access to historical aerial photography. Some historical colour aerial photos from Whenua. We'll have a look at modern, the best available imagery that you can get. We'll have a look at Google Earth as well, because Google Earth has got this unique thing where you can go from the 1980s year by year by year by year all the way through for anywhere. And I'll also just point out to you, although we won't go too much into this one, of the highest detail elevation data you can get. I'll show you very quickly. I'm going to go through each of these quite quickly when we come back up to the top. Data.gov, where you can search all of the what do you call it? All of the data sets of government. Savannah, what I might do, just got access, share a PDF. I don't think we can share the PDF in here, but never mind. We will get you a copy of this, and you'll be able to access it. So Esri Living Atlas. For those of you who joined us last month, we had Roland Pomana from Eagle Technology sharing with us some of the online data sets, which are pretty cool. We'll have a look at a couple of websites. There's Lawa. Some of you may have heard of this one, Land, Air, Water, Aotearoa. And
I can stop there on the way there.
Also, we'll have a look at a new data-driven website, National Environmental Data Center. We'll have a look at some sea level rise data, and kind of what I've done here, I've kind of gone trying to find that middle path where there's something for those of you who are not familiar with GIS mapping, the layers of data, and then there's also some stuff here for those of you who are well into it. We'll have a look at what Whenua has got. They've got some really neat climate-driven data. Future climate, for example, that might help with your planning. Ministry of Environment, we'll have a look at what data they've got. Land use, for example, MPI, fisheries. Totu Te Whenua, we'll have a look at some of theirs. Māori land court blocks, where to find everything you could possibly find on a Māori land court block. Sorry, not Māori land block. Either through Māori land court or through Te Whiti or through Te Ponekokiri, which each have got different data available. So let's begin. First thing, and what I'm going to try and do is keep an eye on the watch so that I spend a few minutes on each data set and we flick through to the next one. So retrolens, let's see. Oh, I've gone offline for today. Okay, let's try a different way. Retrolens. Oh, okay. I had some error with my URL, but that's okay. Put that on the chat. Agree. So retrolens is a archive of hundreds of thousands of aerial photos back from 1936. Each of these orange triangles represents the footprint, the outline of an aerial photo. So I'm going to have a look up at home, or Whenua, because there's one particular photo that I really enjoyed looking at. So what this tells me is as I zoom in, I've looked for this place, and I can see that there is a photo here from 22nd of October 1940. And as I move my mouse over here, you can see it's showing me in a sequence of images. Can you see how these are all related? One there in the middle, one at the bottom, so it's kind of like a string as an aircraft is flown across. And you can see these are all related. So they're all taken on 22nd of October 1940 in this case. So I can just click it and have a look. And I can zoom in here by going down here on the bottom left to large. So here's the Waikato Awa, and Lake Whenua is up here, just off the edge. And here's the main trunk railway line just here, and State Highway 1 is now to the left of it. And the whare where we grew up was just to the north. It was just here. That whare, I can still remember stomping around there, where it was. So looking at this aerial photo, I can zoom in and I can see some neat things. I can see here, okay, there's some train carriages, and I can see, I wonder what time of day this photo was taken. So I can come over here and I can have a look, and it tells me the altitude. Whenua, Ngarawahia, 22nd, 1940. Doesn't Oh yeah, tells me the time here. Or is that altitude? What is that telling me? I'm having trouble comprehending that, but one of you guys can figure it out for me. So it tells me that probably that was taken in the morning. And if I zoom in here, I can see this big white steamy thing, which is a train. So you can find a photo from 1940. You probably find one 1950s, 60s, one or two in the 70s, one or two in the 80s. And from about there, that's where satellite images pick up. So there's just a quick example of retro lens. And that works for pretty much anywhere in the country. If I go here, Taita, random, Taita and Lower Hutt, I can see this one is taken 14th of June 1939. And this kind of market garden is where our whare was. Whare is now. So there's retro lens, definitely worth having a tutu with. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but I'm just going to point out the ones I think are really useful and spend more time on those. Now there's also Esri wayback imagery. So it's not that far back, but it does go back to perhaps the early 2000s. So what you can do is you can find a place, and if we go here to Whenua, and I zoom down. The reason I want to zoom down is because it limits what is going to happen on the left-hand side. I just want it to apply to just this view. So here's a roto. And so what I want to do is I want to know what satellite imagery is available for here. So here's one from the 11th of October this year, just last month. Here's one from 29th of June last year, 22. 12th of January, 22. Oops, I clicked this one. I was just wanting to just come. Well, stop clicking. Click the first one again. As I hover over these, it's going to give me a preview of that imagery there. So that's another place to access imagery that you can use as well. Lens ortho photos. So there's kind of a three big areas of imagery to be aware of for historical monitoring change over time. There's the retro lens, which has the black and white imagery from the 1940s through to the 80s. There's the modern satellite imagery you'll be familiar with from Google Maps, which goes back into kind of the mid-2000s, but there's this gap between. And that's where some of these photos can be quite useful. So you can see here, Lynn's New Zealand ortho photos, 95 to 96. And so when you add those to your map, it allows you to view a series of tiles. The trick is with these, it's not universal coverage. So you've got to sort of keep an eye on where the coverage is. So these are the aerial photos that Toitu Te Whenua took to update the topographic maps, the ones that you use for search and rescue and for hunting. And so they did them piece by piece, year on year. So you can see here, there is 2000, 2001, and hopefully you can see that wee picture there. There's a strip in Waikato. There's one here, Taranaki, some here on Te Waiponamu, and others. Yeah, you can see what I mean. It's not universal. So those are another source. And Lynn's base maps, which is really useful if you want. I'll show you. I really like this one. You can make it full screen. It's very simple. You can just use it as a picture, put it on a projector, use it just for having caught it all about or whatever. And it will always have the best and latest aerial photography in there for you, the highest detail that is available in Aotearoa. So that's a really useful one. What I want to do is just very quickly show you how we for time. We're going good. Google Earth, there's a couple of links here. I'm going to use this one here, this Aoraki time lapse. So this is an alternative type of satellite image from 1984 all the way through to 2022. And if you keep an eye on the glacier just here, and you can see here that the year on year, each frame is a year. So you can see as it's coming through into the 90s, coming into the 2000s, you can see it's moving quite rapidly, and then the bottom of the glacier is eroding away quite quickly, faster than it can be replaced. So you can do this for anywhere. What happens is when you move the mouse like this, let's see if I go somewhere like, actually another place that's quite interesting is around Aotearoa, where they converted a lot of forestry back into dairy farms in kind of the late mid-2000s, I think. So if I was to copy this link and I just share it with you, there we go. So that will open on your screen, and you can share that with others as well. And you can change that from slow, fast. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do within Google Earth there. Okay, so that's probably enough for imagery. The last one I just want to point out, and this is one of the more advanced things, but is also very, very cool. This is LiDAR elevation data. So within the regional fund, there was funding available for to support the capture of aerial-borne LiDAR, which is point-based elevation data. And this is that original point elevation data. You can access it from here. You can also access it as a elevation layer from Whenua from data.lins. But what you can do here is you can go in here and you can access the raw data, download it, or you don't even have to download it. You can just clip a piece and create your own 3D. I won't do it in this hui, but we have done it in previous videos. Okay, let's get into some of the more interesting data sets. Just going to very quickly just flash this one in front of you. If you're looking for data and you think that one of the government agencies or councils may have it, then this is where I would start if Google is not giving you the answers you need. So let's say I was looking here for marae data. Then here's a whole bunch of data sets on marae. Most of these are going to be from regional councils, but there's also one from TPK, which I'm going to show you as well. So that's that data.gov. One last thing here is the data sets that you're looking for here. You want either a KML if you use Google Earth. If you use ArcGIS, then you can get Esri REST services or GeoServices or GeoJSON if you're a developer. You can also get lots of other formats and things in there. So just be aware that using this site, it does take a bit of practice to figure out what you're wanting to get, but it links to other sites. It doesn't actually have any data in there itself. Let's keep coming down here. Living Atlas. So just last month, we did a session with Roland Pulmana on Living Atlas of Aotearoa, of the world. But what I've done here is I've given you a link to just Aotearoa. So when you come down here, you can see, for example, stream gauges, schools, Census 28, deprivation. So once the Census 23 data comes out, I think it starts maybe from March next year, or maybe May. I'm not entirely sure. But that will appear here as well in ready-to-use format. So what I mean by ready-to-use formats is you just click this. And it's there, it's that you're accessing the data set, but if you wanted to open it in a map viewer, this will open just in a very simple map viewer. And I can zoom to anywhere that interests me. And so deprivation, if you've not come across this before, this is based on the census data, and it tells you where the more deprived, the level of deprivation of a population. So the wealthier the area, generally the less deprived. When you click on it, it will give you a whole list of attributes as well of what council is that. All of these, there's just heaps of information in there. I won't go into those too much. Okay, this is I want to skip to this one, actually. This is a new site, National Environmental Data Center. This one is going to take up most of your weekend, I'm sorry to say. If you're into finding data sets, it's a really neat one. So what they've done is, if we go into the About, all of these folks here, GNS, Skyon, ESR, shout out to COVID for looking after us during all that testing they did in COVID, Planted Food Research, Niwa, which have got some fantastic data sets, Ngā Whenua as well. We had Holden Hohaia join us a month or so ago, showing us how he uses QGIS. And Ag Research, they put together this portal which brings together all of their environmental data sets in one place. And these are all Crown Research Institutes. So they've grouped them up by theme. So if we go in here, say in climate, not all of these are GIS layers, but they are data sets, not all of them geographic. Climate change projections. What will climate change mean for New Zealand? So we click on this one and explore maps. And what we can do here is these RCPs, if you've not come across these before, these are basically the international climate change models. The higher the number, the worse the scenario. So 2.6, I think, is current with minimal, with reasonable change. Low to mid is with minimal change. CP6 is something like not doing much at all. And then 8.5 is if we just ignore all the scientists and just carry on as normal. So you can you can access maps based on these scenarios. Let's go with low to mid scenario. And we want to know about hot days. And we want to compare 1986-2005 with future, and period is for the whole year. And let's go update map. And so what we have here is hot days between 95 and 2025. And the level of detail is quite large scale. But there are lots of other tools in that site that you can come in here and have a look at as well. Let's have a look down here. What I've got: temperature record, NIWA weather, daily climate maps. Let's have a look in here. So these are, I believe these ones are updated frequently. Last 60 days. Last 15 days sun. Don't feel like we've had much down here in Porneke, but so there's lots of data in there, lots of easy to use maps, river flow forecasts, satellite images. Oh, there's heaps, and this is just one of those categories. There's NIWA geospatial data. We'll come to that shortly as well. So there's that one we just looked at. National Environmental Data Center. So it's bringing together all of the CRI data sets. Let's have a look at another more future-focused one, which is CRISE. So CRISE is a project that does a very unique method. Actually, they have done comparing where land is subsiding, ocean is rising, and done the maths every couple of kilometers around the whole coast. And in that link doc, we've got a link there. This is provided by Takiwa. Of course, we read the README. what we look at here is vertical land movement is shown here on the legend. If we come down here, we want to know about sea level rise, national predictions, and vertical land movement sites. And what I'm going to do is zoom down and click on one. So for this location and this location only, it gives me a very interesting graph. If based on the scenario of 2 to 4.5, and there's, I think, let me just come back to this one. There should be a link in here. Wikipedia somewhere. Where did I put that one? Wikipedia, this one. This kind of describes these different scenarios for climate change. If we pull finger and do what we need to do, 2.6 is kind of, that's keeping it under, was it 1.5 degrees, but very unlikely. 4.5 or 8.5, the parts per million. So I forget how many parts per million we are today. It changes every day. It goes up a little each week still. But that's where that these scenarios come from. Whoops, must come back in here. I want to get back to that. Here we are. So looking in here, you can see for this location and this location only, based on those different scenarios, so I can go based on no vertical land movement and the best case scenario, 1.9 by 2100, we can see that at this location by 2100, most likely 38 to 40 centimeters, 0.4 of a meter, is the sea level rise. If I take that into account with vertical land movement, what we're likely to get is, now I could be reading this wrong, but I believe it's that where the land is coming up at that location, which I'm pretty sure it is, which is partially why I clicked that one, because I know the land is getting lifted there. Now, what is it telling me? I missed the point here. So the dotted line is telling me 2.5 medium confidence, and the solid line is telling me taking into account land movement. I'm not sure if that's 100% right, but you get the idea. They're actually taking both land movement and sea level rise together. It takes a little bit of, I should have really spent more time looking through that website, Aotearoa, but it's really fascinating. And it works for the whole motu. So if we look at areas around Taranaki, you can see there negligible land movement change. If we look over here in Bay of Plenty, we can see land coming up. And here, so even though the moana's coming up, the land is coming up as well here. So it works around for the whole country. Worth having a look at. Let's charge on. That's this one here, sea rise. Let's have a look at Whenua. So Whenua have made some data layers available, and you can click in here. And this is how you can access, all of this data is open public data. You can access all of Whenua's publicly available data. So if we have a look in here and let's say freshwater. So some of these links go to data sets. Some of them also go to story maps. So story maps, similar to that one that I showed you first, the marae funding example. If we look at what have we got? 9 story maps in here, but none of them are on that filter. We have a freshwater. So if I take that tag freshwater off, we'll have some other story maps come up. And this is where we can go and have a look and explore what's available there. MFE, so there are a couple of sites that all use the same data tool provided by Coordinates that allow you to download and take a copy of many of the different data sets. So let's have a look at this one. I've got land use map 1990. Whoops. Bring this over a bit. 1990 through to 2016, version 11. So if I come in here, this is captured from satellite imagery for these periods, and it allows you to compare where there's been deforestation, for example, or reforestation or land use change. If we come down here, we click on something, we can see that that entire area is natural forest in 2016, tall forest in 2016. I think they probably just changed some categories, or maybe there are 2 polygons I've clicked here. But you can see that that has been the same all the way through, year on year. If we come over here near Aotearoa, we're going to get really interesting results in this area, because I know there's been significant land use change around here, going from forestry, so here high producing grassland, non-dairy, grassland grazed. So one of these is going to go from forest in the 90s through, this one will, grazed, non-dairy, high producing grassland. So it allows you to see for those areas over time what has changed. Lots of data sets in there. Same with MPI. They have got, so what I've done here is I've put some links of, this is where to find the data. If you're not yet ready to have to do with the data, look for any of these links that have maps. So here's one, for example, with Niwa. Sorry, I meant to show you this one. Or maybe I already did. You can go in here, and these are ready to use, ready to view maps, story maps, that just click, have a to-do. You cannot break these things. So that's where I've put maps and applications and things, for example. Land use, there's a link there directly to land use. So we had some, one of the folks was asking about farms. Farms in Aotearoa is a tricky one. Land use, land cover are available, and this is that one we just looked at. With farms, first thing is there's not really a solid definition of what a farm is. Funny as that may seem. What constitutes a farm, or what, how do you define a farm? The second one is the nearest thing that we have to it is through MPI, which when they set the system up, they had privacy concerns. So because of that, we can't access that, that data set. That's usually defined by a farmer or other processes. If you've got your own farm and you're wanting to define the boundaries or define it using land blocks, then the best thing to do is to start with either someone who specializes in that, because they can provide you with some mapping tools. If you're wanting to look at land blocks, Māori land blocks, for example, we'll come to those in a moment too. Let's have a look at MPI data. So here's their data portal, and in here you can browse through any of the data that MPI collects, particularly around fisheries, for example. Let's have a look in here. If we go, just try going search. Here's their marine geospatial data catalog, so you can download the whole catalog. There are all kinds, there are thousands of data sets in here, I think. Oh no, only 762. So there's enough to keep you busy for a couple of hours. Depending on what you're wanting to, or there's a how to use the open data portal there as well. If we look in here and we go fish, or probably we need a species, for example. Marine mammal sanctuaries, fisheries management areas. So if we click on that one. So for those of you who have been to a couple of our Ngā Poutama sessions, you will have seen me using ArcGIS online web maps, and you can search and add data into them quite easily. This is one of those examples. What's this one going to show us? So the details don't really appear until we get into, looks like they're covered underneath. You see that? Really, we'd probably have to add that to a map or view it in a mapping application for it to be. Let's have a look and see what applications I've got here. Give it a second to load. So there's an atlas of biosecurity surveillance, wild game helicopter tracking, Didimo, neighbours. I forget what neighbours is for. It's been around for quite a while. Let's have a look at atlas of biosecurity, for example. So you can see there's lots of tabs across here. Let's pick on marine, see what they got in here. And so what we do then is we can scroll through, get some information. There's a map of marine survey locations. Let's go back up to this one, click on that map. So very simple map in this case. But you can go through whatever area is of interest to you. Let's have a look at some of the LINS Toited Whenua datasets. Very quickly, they're using the same kind of tool as MFE, as StatsNZ, and a couple of Manaki Whenua, I think, as well. And GNS, I think, use the same tool from coordinates. So you can search and add layers to this map area here. If we go in here, we want rivers. Oa. Named river lines. So rivers are a tricky data set in Aotearoa at the moment because we've got a network from Niwa, but it's not particularly detailed at the local level. But the LINS river name lines is what I'd use if you're wanting to identify. You can see here this random, let's go and have a look somewhere else, random place like over the hill into Wairarapa. And I can also change the base map if I want to be able to see the terrain more easily. So if I wanted to follow an awa or look at a catchment, then MFE have also got catchments as well at a whole catchment scale. Let's get into some of the Māori Land Court and Te Arawhiti and TPK data sets. So what I might do is Māori Land Court has just put out a new mapping service, the Pātaka Whenua. To get the full details, you need to create an account, register and log in. But for those of us that don't need to, we can go for, you can search for a block. And this is very similar to the Tupu website from Te Puna Kōkiri. So if we wanted to look at some details on a block, just here, click on the block. And Tiroa E, block ID, district, area. We can open it in Google Maps, but the one that's going to be most useful is clicking on the name of the block there, and it gives you some information about the management structure and other details in relation to that land block. Document name, land administrator. You can see there's lots of information there. It's got the named listed owners, for example. So that's from Māori Land Court, Pātaka Whenua. Now, let's say you're interested in just one block. I'm going to skip down to the end here to tupu. And if we use Te Roa E, just as a random example, find your whenua. What we're going to do here is find the link. Where's to open the map? Tools. Start again, Dwayne. I'm looking for the map one. Search the land use fact sheets. It's not, oh, here we go. I just didn't scroll down far enough. Te Roa E. That was the one we clicked on, just randomly. Click on that and go search. And so what it's given me is a series of block IDs here, different parts of the block. And what I can do is I can get a PDF for, let's say, just for Te Roa E. I click on PDF, downloads, and here's a detailed report on that block. Tells me how many owner interests, shares, but this is where the real value is. It goes into detail about climate, water, land cover, soil slope, drainage, potential regeneration, tourism, all kinds of details. For some of the smaller blocks, it's not that helpful because it's, some of the blocks are so small. But areas that have got some size to it like this, it's going to give you valuation data, which is a real bonus that's difficult to get hold of. It's going to give you some interesting tables, graphs, distance infrastructure. Let's come down here a bit further. Average temperature just for that block across the block, growing degree days, things like this. So you can get that for every Māori Land Court block, every Māori land block through there. Kia ora, Savannah. Length of waterways, catchments, and so on. And this is for every single block. And this is a PDF that you can download. Okay, the last one I want to just share with you is back to Te Arawhiti, and then we'll have time for part-time and we can go looking for other data sets too. Just wanted to point out this takutai moana. So to access the maps, this is a type of story map. To access the maps, kōrero takutai. And if it loads up, yes, of course I've read those conditions. What I can do is I can turn on layers like this. Wow. And zoom down to an area that I'm interested in. Any of these I can turn on and off. And over here, I can add more data. So this little plus sign just here, I can add any of the data sets that are in here as well. So that intentionally don't put them all on at once because it would just overwhelm the map. But let's say I want conservation land, petroleum permits, mineral permits, there's heaps of data. So there's heaps and heaps of layers here. I can just go through and have a look and see what's available. But that's a really neat site. You can go in there. So the last one I wanted to just very quickly show you is a lot of what you've seen has been based on either data services, where you have to download the data, or in the ArcGIS environment. This is an ArcGIS environment, which is kind of like the Microsoft Office. And I just wanted to very quickly show you how you can create your own map. I'm just going to take my 1-2 minutes to do this, give the idea, and then we'll have kōrero and questions. So if I sign in here with my Google account, and you can just sign up for an ArcGIS account for free. Just seeing if this will log in. So if I go up here to map, now lots of these data sets that you've seen in that link are available to add directly into your map here. And I can go add. Now this is not in my content, but I want to go from ArcGIS Online. This is a very simple kind of workflow. And I can search in ArcGIS Online, and that's any data that anyone in using ArcGIS has made public. So if I add marae to start with, marae from Te Puna Kōkiri, I pick them because I know they're going to maintain that data set for me. It means I don't have to. And I want awa. And I know that LINs have got named awa. So I'll chuck in there LINs. Named river New Zealand lines, add those. And if I come down here, here those awa turned on, and when I click on one, some details will come back. This particular one doesn't have a name on it. Let's say I want land blocks, Māori, or even just searching on Māori and seeing what comes up. You can see there's data sets here from councils, Canterbury maps. Another one here, Māori land blocks 2017 from Te Puna Kōkiri. So I'm going to choose that one. You can see here Northland Regional Council has shared theirs. There's Māori medium schools. Māori electoral districts, Māori wards. There's boundaries. Boundaries are not so useful. Iwi boundaries are not really boundaries. They're areas of interest, but they're also through Te Puna Kōkiri. So if I go iwi area, through settlement claims, TPK, oh, look, there's that guy. Iwi areas of interest. So I can add those to my map as well. So what I've done is I've actually used 2 layers there from Te Puna Kōkiri, but what I've done is I've pulled in data sets from different I can keep going as well. I've got data there from LINs, I've got from Te Puna Kōkiri. I can add data from Niwa, from Ministry of Environment and other sources. And if I just go save as, so let's say I wanted to do this map and then share it with friends and whānau, sample map, and just go save. And then if I go share map and I go public and save. And now if I share this with you, share, can't remember how I get the link. I think if I just give you this link here, I put this in the chat. And just like that, there's an entry for our Ngā Poutama Matawhenua mapping competition. Something that you learned during this series. Give it a go. There are some videos on how to do that as well. So there's just a whirlwind tour of some of the data sets that might be of interest to you. There's, of course, tons and tons and tons that we haven't covered. Wanted to point out what I'll do with this is I'll continue building this out. And here, about 2 years ago, I did this sample story map. GIS data sources for Māori GIS mapping projects. And this links through to some of those data sets, but a few of them may not work anymore. But that's a link in there to that document as well. But my intent is to update this for some of those new links. So, kia ora. That's what I wanted to share with you today. So now we have some time for some pārtai. If there's some data that you're interested in that we weren't able to cover there, or that you can see that you'd like us to go and have a look at, feel free just to go for it, unmute, and first in, first served.
Sure, Dwayne. Keith Holswich from New Plymouth. How are you today?
Oh, kia ora, Keith. Yeah, good. Catch bye.
I'm a retired land surveyor, and setting up our Hapu GIS system, the most valuable data that we could find was the old survey maps. Yet
Yes.
they are not freely available from anywhere unless you pay a huge amount of money for them. Is there any likelihood that they could be made available freely in the future?
Yeah, I know that it is something that is a challenge for Tautu Te Whenua, just because of the cost associated with making them publicly accessible. But there are ways and means to get access to them. So the first one is to use the existing relationships that are in place. So if your hapu or your iwi has worked with LINZ recently or has a relationship, then pass that request up through the line, because they can occasionally provide access to a cluster of images. But it's on a case-by-case basis, and depending on who's available and what other priorities they have at that time as well. I know that most of the government agencies at the moment are going through a bit of a contraction. So you can always ask. There are a couple of other sites as well. So there is one on the LINZ website. I just can't for the life of me think of it. It's where did I have? Do I have it in one of those, in that story map?
Where the recall data, is it?
Yeah, recall. Is it recall?
Recall.
Yeah. Let's have a look for that. Recall things. Maybe I've got it on my maps.
And what was just showing there, Dwayne, was being able to access the old surveyors' field books going right back. There is a huge amount of historical information held in those field books, and I would encourage anyone to have a look at that.
Has anyone got a link to that site? I'm just trying to find it. Is it Recall or Record? Was it called Recall there, Keith?
I shall have a look and just see if I can chase it down.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Al. That's I know for Taranaki there's a lot on there as well. You can get some from archives as well, but yeah, it's not easy.
Recollect.
That's the one.
Recollect.
Let's have a look there. This is that one. Field books, some of the plans, some of the historical land plans that, like this one, for example. This is a notebook, but quite often they will have historical place names in here as well that can be very useful. It's quite a tricky site to use, though. So
indeed.
Yeah. May the force be with you, whānau, with this one. It's got a lot of information in there, and of course to make it as simple as possible is not easy, but they've done their best. I'll put that link on the chat. Any other pātai whānau? Kia ora.